welcome. We're gonna get started. Sorry, it's a little after 11. Anyone has questions? This is not like formal. So if you have questions while we're talking, shout it out. Don't need to raise hands. We're good. This is Jenny Salvaggio. I'm Jamie Iannetta. We both work out of the Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan Office in Pepper Pike. Okay, sit down. Down's not working. Shut up. No. Great, okay. This. There we go. All right, we'll just, click here. Yeah. Will that work?
Ryan.
You have a clicker on you.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
It's my past life. No, come back to get me.
Maybe I should take this one out, or it doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
Oh, it's Ryan.
You're the best.
Love him.
Save the day. Okay, so as I said, I'm Jamie Iannetta. This is my 9th year in the business. Last year I took on the role of Director of Sales for Impact Group, so I'm running the team full-time, doing all the hiring and interviewing and coaching. In addition, closed 23 sales, about $6.5 million, and our team closed a little over 130 units with $37 million in volume last year. I love to teach and pour into both my clients and our team. Now my background is in education and counseling. If you know any educators, they're really good realtors. So keep that in mind. My favorite book is The Mountain Is You. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's an excellent self-help and motivation book. And I married my high school sweetheart. He's right here in the front of the room.
Paid her a lot of money.
Mike became an agent just this past year as well, so that's fun. And then, oh, come on, really? Ryan, what's going on? This is Jenny.
Wait for me, I think it's.
Go ahead.
there.
It's your fault. Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Is it still on? Fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm Jenny Salvaggio. I've been on, this is my 9th year in the business. I closed 40 deals last year, and I did my highest ever, 15 million in volume. In all honesty, I did have 1.3 million, which was probably what shot me up there. That was the largest I've ever sold. 2024, which I'm on the same impact group. That's the team that we're a part of. We did 37 million. My favorite thing is, you know, the cheesy helping with ownership, but it really is like, that's genuinely where I just love the idea of giving keys to someone who didn't think they would ever be able to have a house. That's like my favorite thing. I like self-help books, but I try super hard to like kind of get out of the real estate mind. So I just read The Nightingale, which was really great. Again, read it, super easy, quick read. And then I do like to listen to gangster rap when I exercise, and you know, I'm trying to tell myself 90s, you know, Eminem. Oh gosh, I felt Dr. Dre, all those. I love those.
I have known Jenny for like 10 years and never knew that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't look like the type. That's why. In fact, like I married a really cool guy. Like I was the nerdy, you know, band drama club, and he's like the guy with all the tattoos and muscles, and he kind of brought in some, maybe mixed up for me a little.
Okay. So this is what we're gonna go over today.
Yeah, so we're gonna put 4 P's of listing today. We're gonna do the pre-qual. Pre-qual to me is like probably one of the most important things. We're gonna talk a little bit about diving into getting some information on the phone from that seller before you meet with them. We're also gonna get you ready to prepare, you know, your comps and your MLS statistics, and absorption rates and things like that to be prepared when you get there. We're also going to talk about your presentation, what you need to bring with you, you know, your folders and that sort of thing. We're going to really kind of break it down what you should bring. And then pricing, we're going to talk about that, how to present the pricing, and also like kind of feel out what's important to them when it comes to pricing, whether testing the market or they just want to sell right away. And then, of course, we're going to talk net sheet on that with the pricing as well.
Just for, give us a show of hands, like how many of you have not done a listing before? Okay, about half the room. Cool.
We've all been there.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is the pre-qual process. You know, some of us are lucky enough to have an ISA department and inside sales agents to kind of get all this information before we walk in. But if you're the one calling, the stuff that you want to talk to them about is, why are they selling? What's motivating them? How quickly do they want to sell? If they are the only person that needs to be at the listing appointment to be able to be a decision maker. You want to gather, that stuff's very important, but I think what's most important is gathering as much information about the house as possible. Because when you're doing all your preparation and doing your paperwork, it's really gonna help you to know how old the furnace is, the roof, what they've updated or if they haven't updated anything. It's also a great idea while you're hearing them talk about their home, it kind of gives you an idea of where they land in the disc, whether they just want you for a price. They don't want to hear all your BS. They just want to know how much you're going to sell this for. You're also going to kind of find out how much they love their house and they might talk like so much about their house. And now when you walk in there that you need to compliment their house and let them know how much you love the house. That conversation is really going to give you kind of an idea of what kind of person you're going to be meeting with during that pre-call conversation. The one thing that I'm not very good at and I have to work on, and I'm a big Judge Judy fan, is she always says, 2 ears, 1 mouth. You have 2 ears for a reason and 1 mouth. So try to listen as much as you can. I sometimes just get all caught up with the questions and I forget to kind of listen. And if you listen, you're going to get some nuggets that you didn't even ask. And they're going to start telling you things that you didn't even ask. And it's really going to help you for that presentation when you're meeting with them.
And
Anything?
Well, I would say with that, if you don't, and they're maybe a high C personality and they want to go over more information and you're not listening, they're going to feel that and it's an uncomfortable conversation. So it's really important that we're mirroring and matching, how slow or how fast they're talking, how attentive they are to detail. And again, that goes along with the DISC. If you aren't familiar when we keep saying DISC, DISC are the 4 personalities, and Keller Williams, you probably have all taken the DISC if you work at Keller Williams. But if you don't know, we can talk about that more separately later. But yeah, very important to know that. And then also the info gathering about the house, buyers and sellers are both liars. We all know buyers are liars,
Yeah.
so are sellers.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many times they'll say like, oh, we've updated everything and
1980.
yeah, exactly. We updated everything, we redid the bathroom, we have all new flooring, and then you prepare your comps and you walk in the house and like Jenny said, it's like maroon and forest green and it hasn't been touched since the 80s or the early 90s. And now your comps might not be, and your net sheets might not be appropriate. So if that happens, and it will, there's always times where you prepare and you think a certain price, it's really important to have a range, and we'll talk more about
Sure.
that. But also just, it's okay to not be correct. It's okay to pivot and say like, it's really hard to come up with pricing before I've set eyes on your property. Bless you. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go back and relook at some numbers and, send you a follow-up or give you a call and talk about pricing once I get a chance to look at comparables again. Because the worst thing you can do is just give them the comps and the price that you thought ahead of time, and it's totally not accurate.
It's also try to find out how long they've lived there too. I always feel like that helps a lot too, just to kind of know how long they've lived there. The more information you get, the more prepared you're going to be. And even if you've never done this before, the more prepared you look, the better you're going to look. So.
All right, so Jenny just mentioned about preparing. It's really important to not only be prepared with the house, but to be a local expert, because you may or may not be going up against some other agents who can rattle off national and local statistics, can talk about what the interest rates are and what they were last year at this time, and what the inventory levels look like here and across the country now versus a year ago or 6 months ago. If you don't know that, and the other agent that they're interviewing does, that is going to set you apart, and not in a good way. So it's really important to know national and local statistics. When we talk about local, it's also important to know if the city that you're in has a point of sale requirement. That's something you want to bring up at this appointment. And I always prepare the phone number or the email or the website that they need to go to get started with the point of sale process. While I'm there, I let them know that information.
I print it out, like I print out the form. That really makes you look smart when you,
Yeah.
like, not that you're not smart, Jamie, 'cause But I print it out because it really kind of like, listen, I've gone to the effort to actually make this really easy for you, and I'm gonna continue to make it easy for you by
Yeah,
printing it out.
that's awesome. Some cities make you submit it online, some make you come into the office and bring a check.
True.
Every city's different, so just make sure you know that though, to let them know that there is a point of sale in the city. And why are you telling them to get going on this now? What does anybody think? Yeah, it definitely takes time. And what happens when we go on for a buyer and we're looking at properties and we know it's a point of sale city and nothing's said in the MLS about whether or not the point of sale's been done, been ordered. There's, maybe it's been done, but there's no copy and supplements of what the buyer has to assume. And the seller's telling you the buyer has to assume all violations and you don't have a copy of them. So be that agent that goes above and beyond and has your client do everything up front that you possibly can to make this a smooth transaction. Let them know that, once you're done with this, if there's, talk them through the process. If there's anything on the report, we can discuss whether or not this is something that you're gonna take on, whether you're gonna ask the buyer to assume this. So the more you can explain and show your knowledge about all of these extra little details, the better you're gonna stand out. We want to customize your listing presentation. Again, if you can customize it and know ahead what their disc personality is, that is going to be super helpful. Because like Jenny said, if you have a high D personality and they're quick, they don't want to sit and listen to an hour-long presentation. They want, what are you going to sell this for? What's your commission? How quickly can we be on the market? What are my closing costs? And that's all they want to hear from you. And you're sitting there talking for an hour, like you're done. They don't want to use you. So if you get a feel for that, you can customize ahead of time of how much information you're going to bring them, how many comps you're bringing, things like that. You want to customize your comparables to the subject property, and we'll talk through that in a little bit more detail. You want to have your MLS statistics, which Jenny's going to go over how to do that, and also your absorption rate. And this is going to make you stand out as that local and national economist. The more data you bring, the more you know, the more they are going to think that you're the best agent for them. It's going to set you apart. Know your value proposition. Even if you're brand new, you have a value proposition. And if you don't have one prepared, I highly encourage you to work on that first. Know what you bring to the table. Know what sets you apart. If you're a new agent, then I've talked to some new agents on our team about this. You're hungry. You're super motivated. You have more time than an agent who's got 10 listings that they're trying to juggle and buyers. You're going to be the one that's going to spend the time looking up more details, calling every agent, doing all of that upfront work because you have the time for it. There's always something that brings more value to the table for you that will set you apart from somebody else. So when you're pulling comps, go ahead, Jenny, I'll let you
No,
start
go
this
ahead,
one.
you go.
When you're pulling comps, you want to have some broad comps to start with. So let's say, you're pulling a house in Seoul. This is a house in Seoul and you're going on a listing appointment. My recommendation is know how many bedrooms and baths, just the basics of the home, approximate square footage, and obviously the city or school district you're in, and pull everything first. Start looking through them to give yourself an idea of where you think pricing is going to be. And then you can start narrowing. You absolutely want to pull the whole city. And you also want to pull the school district. In some cities, school districts are shared amongst multiple cities. So say Pepper Pike and Orange, they're sharing the Orange School District. If you only pull Orange, you're missing properties in Pepper Pike that might be a comp that your seller's thinking about or looking at. So I will definitely pull both of those. You can narrow your search as, if you have 100 things to look through, that's way too many. You want to narrow it to say style of the house. If I'm looking at a ranch, do I need to be looking at 30 colonials? Probably not. You can start narrowing to a radius. If you're in downtown Cleveland and you have hundreds of comps that match your fit, pull a mile radius. Start narrowing in, if that only brings up one or two, then maybe you pull 2 miles. But get yourself a grouping of, I would say, 15 or so good narrow comps that you feel this home's going to fit within. And you're not bringing all of those. You want to talk about what you bring with you?
Well, I think the other thing when she's talking about the comps, and this is like just a little side piece for me, is I, more and more times than not, sellers will say, well, the guy up the street.
Mhm.
So what I always do is, I do it a little different than Jamie, that's why I
Just in
wanted her
case
to do
comps.
it. Yeah, but I, I go and click, I get quarter of a mile radius, and then I start just click, you can just click on it, it won't show up on the solds and, because it's maybe 2 years ago, but I just kind of click around it, and it might come up 2022 sale, 2021. And I'll print that up too, just so I can say, oh yeah, your neighbor, but that was a different market, because a lot of times they're gonna talk about what their neighbor does. So I don't know what category that is, Jamie, that you have that on.
I just
But-
have that as a just in
Yeah,
case comp.
you're gonna
So-
need it, yeah, I mean, not all the time, but you, once again, you can, when you do that pre-qual conversation, you can kind of gauge. And they might even mention, well, my neighbor up the street, make sure you're prepared with that.
Mhm.
I mean.
Well, let's go back. So you really want to bring sold comparables, and you're going to talk to your client about, they're always bringing up actives. Well, this neighbor up the street's on the market for 300,000. Well, they haven't sold. They've been on the market 79 days. Do we think they're going to get 300,000? Likely not. Do we know what they're going to get? No. Have you been in their house? No. So we can't use that as a sold comparable. We really want to focus on what's actually sold and what the market is bared for that property. So the majority of your comps that you're bringing with you should be sold within the last, we used to say 12 months. Now I'm usually narrowing that down to 6 months and sometimes even 90 days. Our market has changed significantly over the past year. So looking at a comp from a year ago might not be the greatest thing to do. I mean, it's good to know it, but when you're actually narrowing down pricing, you want to look at really recent solds. So I wouldn't bring more than 3 to 6 that you're really going to focus on. So narrowing that really close to what you think this property is going to sell for. And you want to have like maybe a couple a little on the lower side, couple in the middle where you think that this should be priced, and a couple that are over that, because you're going to go through these with your client. And when they start seeing like, okay, well, when we get up to 315, do we compete up here? As you look through these pictures, as you see the updates, as you see that they have a 3-car garage and you have a 2, they have a finished basement and you don't. Do you think we compete up here? And they're going to admit themselves as they start seeing this that, well, no, we probably need to back this down. The whole goal is to get them to self-realize and agree with you on where we think we should be priced. So bring a couple higher end so they can see that they really shouldn't be up there. And then you do want to bring a couple actives, have them in your folder with you and know them, because they're going to bring them up. Well, this person down the street or this person around the block, or my cousin lives over there, and whatever, have those ready and be able to talk through, like I said, yes. And this is why, we can look at them, because this is going to be your active competition that we're up against. But as far as what we really think we're going to sell for, we're going to look at solds. Once you come up with your sold pricing and where you think you should be, then you can compare that back to these active properties. Okay, well, if we price here and we're up against this house down the street and their price is the same and they have this, this, or this, or they don't have this, this, or this, now maybe we need to adjust a little bit.
And then that's what, when she's talking about the highlight and different, that's what she's saying.
Mhm.
Like, I take the time, because you get kind of overwhelmed, I get nervous, whatever. So you can actually circle 2-bedroom, 2-bath, circle the year, like kind of pinpoint, this is how this matches your property. And then right on the side, this one, read the remarks. This one has a new roof, this one has a new furnace, just so when you're sitting down with your seller, you really remember what you had looked at the day before. And then they can actually read it too. I'm skipping ahead.
No, you are. Look how prepared you are.
Yeah, right.
So last on that other side, bring just in case comps, those ones that are in the area that maybe sold a while ago, that are the neighbor, that across the street, down the block, whatever. I don't bring them out unless they mention them. Just tuck them in the back, have them in a separate paper clip, have them with you so that you're prepared. And then they're like, well, what about this? Oh yeah, I have that with me. You show that you're really prepared, but if they don't mention it, there's no reason to bring up comps from 2 years ago, or even anything that doesn't fit the comps that you pulled that you are prepared, that want to focus and talk about. So yes, so like Jenny said, we do a lot of highlighting and circling to show again that you have done your homework and you are totally prepared and you know these comps inside and out. So I usually use like a green highlighter and highlight any matches. So if they're the same amount of bedrooms, same bathrooms, similar square footage, anything that we've talked about, like that we want to call out in the description, say they talk about here, like new furnace and AC, new driveway in 2024, like I'd be highlighting that stuff. You want to point that out to them. And then as Jenny said, we write on the side of the comps. I just typed it, but like, those are some things that I would be writing, I know you too, on the side of each comp. Like every comp that you have, show them you've done this. You're highlighting, you're writing, you're taking notes, you know these comps. Like, okay, well, this one sold in 2 days. It went over asking price. You know, they priced it correctly, and this is what happened. And it was a recent sale. I'd be highlighting it, just closed in January. You know, again, you're talking about what things are the same, what things are different as well. Like maybe I'm putting it has a fireplace because theirs doesn't, and we need to point that out to them. Or, you know, theirs is a smaller lot than yours. So any of the similarities and differences, the updates, you also want to point out, and whether or not you print the seller, the agent full for the list side or the agent full for the buyer side, you may or may not have this information in your comps. Some people don't like to put it because it does show the agents that were used. But what I like out of this is that you can point out seller paid closing costs. And when I see that there's seller paid closing costs, I go right up to the sold price and I say minus
Me too.
whatever, $5,000.
Yeah, it
And
looks like it sold for 325, but they gave them 10,000 in closing costs, so really this sold for 315.
exactly.
So that way they know you were.
Yeah, and then you can bring up commission. Everyone's favorite conversation nowadays is that, you know, we can't see also what the seller agreed to pay in buyer agent commission, but it's likely somewhere between 0 and 3% that also may have come out of that closing price.
Now, this is the part where I'm not good at, is once you do all of this, I'm just being honest, I have to work on it. But you go over all this first page and then you hand it to them to look at the pictures and then you be quiet. And
Yeah.
then they can kind of look at the photos and go, this does look like mine. Oh, this is a lot nicer than mine. So that's.
Or a lot of
You're
times they'll
supposed to be
say,
quiet then.
oh, but I have this, or, but mine is, I have this, or
Yeah,
mine is
then
more
they'll start- Yeah,
updated.
you're going, "Uh-uh."
But it is good to hear that and to kind of bring them back to reality with the photos and the updates and, or lack thereof. Yeah.
Oh, there, okay,
Yeah.
so this is my favorite part, because what I do is I do all my comps. You know, I do all my homework, I think I have a gauge of a price. And then this is, I present this to the seller, but this is also helpful for me to see if I did my work right, if I came up with a correct number. So this is the ML statistic, which I think we might be able to go over how to
If
do
we have
it.
time at them, we'll go over how to
Yeah.
pull the MLS statistics and also pulling some
Yeah.
comps.
So.
So this is right in the MLS. This is one of the features
Yeah,
in there.
and Jose Medina, this is something that he taught us to do, and I don't know, I don't think too many agents do it, so you're gonna look pretty darn smart if you do it. You might beat me out. Anyway, so what I did is I pulled all of Mayfield Heights, which usually I do the school system, but this one we did Mayfield Heights. In the last 180 days or 6 months for all the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom between 200 and 300K, right? So after I did that, then I hit the MLS statistic on the MLS, and right now we know that there's 5 houses that are active on the market. A bummer is recently that for whatever reason, the MLS isn't putting that up there, so I have to go hand count how many are pending and contingent. So when I looked, there were 6, and then 34 have sold. So what this tells us in this 34 divided by 6, which is 6 months, means that we had about 5 houses a month sell, which this is telling me and my seller that this is a very strong seller's market. We only have 1 month of inventory right now, because 5 sell a month and we have 5 right now on the market. So the other thing that I typically do is I'll put the square footage. So let's say I have an 1,800 square foot. I'll write it right here. So my seller sees their square footage. And this is only your upstairs, not your basement. This is just the above ground. Thank you. So what I like about it is I have 1,800 square feet. And then I kind of look over here, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. This one was 1721. It's like the algorithm that pulls them all, right? That was listed for 252 and they sold for 249. So when I've told my seller, oh, you should list it for 250, and then I'm able to show them, oh, look, this is very similar to what the MLS, and it kind of reinforces the idea of what I thought we should list it for. Does that make sense? Now, the other thing that I love about this is telling us that in the first 30 days, the seller's getting 100% of what they'd listed it for. So those sellers that are trying to tell you, well, I want to list it like 10 or 20,000 over because I want to negotiate. This kind of tells them there isn't really any negotiation in this market right now. We have to be really intentional with our pricing. and you want to price it right where it needs to be, okay, because they're getting 100%. Well, then they're gonna say, well, this got 98%. Well, usually after 30 days, they've done a price correction. And now they're getting 98% of their,
New price.
yep,
Of
the
the
new
new price.
corrected price.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what else I focus on. Now, the others, those are all expired. So if they ask you, those are like expired listings, or you withdraw and then relisted it because you're trying to get, but that's what that is. You can tell them that. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. So how many of you have ever seen this before? People on our team, one or three others. Okay, do you use this in your presentations?
It sounds like different. What is like the name of this report, or did you pull it?
The name's MLS stats.
Yeah, if you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know how you go to print the buyer.
Mhm.
Full or agent full, any of
Yeah,
those.
if you scroll all the way up, it's the second from the last one. It says MLS statistic, literally, and then it'll make this pop up.
So as you can see, if only 3 to 5 people in this room are talking through this or bringing this with them, they're gonna stand out, right?
Yeah,
Another way that you can do this or add to that, or if you are, you like a chart view better, or you think a client might fit better with something like this. I tend to use this graph instead. So this is absorption rate. It is also part of the stats tab. And if anyone wants more help with this, I can help you another time or later. But also, let's say I pulled the last 12 months on this one. Residential only, single family properties in Mayfield Heights from 200 to 300,000. Sometimes I narrow this down to bedrooms and baths. But sometimes when you do that, you have like 10 homes or 6 homes, and so the chart looks terrible. But I like to give them a broad range, like, okay, in all of Mayfield Heights in the last 12 months, between 200 and 300,000, the green's gonna show you the active listings per month, and the blue were the solds. So if we, you gotta do a little homework, and again, you're writing this on your paper, so you look like you've prepared. I usually write it right down here. And I'll say, okay, so 80 were sold in the last 12 months, which is an average of about 6 per month. And currently, if we go over to February, we have 11 homes on the market. So we have less than 2 months of inventory right now, just like she had with her more narrowed comps as well. Very strong seller's market. And this is where you start being that real estate expert and talking about, what does a seller's market mean? Because if you say that to a client and they have no clue what you're talking about, then the impact of what you're trying to tell them is not working. So we want to explain, like, anything, some people will say 4, 5 months and below is a really strong seller's market when you're talking about inventory. 4 to 6 months or 5 to 6 months is a balanced market. And anything above 6 months of inventory is a buyer's market. When you're in a strong seller's market, now the sellers have the upper hand, which we've been in for quite a while now, probably since about 2018. And being able to talk about that is going to show that you know what you're talking about. And so because we're in a strong seller's market, we're going to be able to price a little bit differently than if we were in a buyer's market. We're going to have less days on market. You may have less repair items that you have to take care of. You may be able to say buyer to assume point of sale, because less inventory means what? You have a bunch of buyers that are all competing for the same home. So now the seller has the upper hand. So being able to talk through that and explain all of this, again, it's going to be something that makes you stand out. Any questions so far? We're going over a lot. No, okay, good.
so be prepared. So now you've done all your homework. You had your conversation with the seller, you've done all your homework on pricing. Now you gotta get your bag ready to take everything with you to the listing appointment. So I tend to use I have 2 bags, and I like a little bit fancier bag, just nice clean look. I also dress more business casual. You don't have to if that's not you. I mean, just as long as you look professional. Some people wear name tags. It's just completely up to you. But when you're putting your bag together, make sure you have a nice folder with all this information that you just gathered, with your comps, your MLS statistics, all that. Make sure you have, I didn't bring it because I was going to show it to you, but if you have, like, different this, like, we do folders. I don't know. I think the brokerage will also, if I remember when I was
There's
a-
Keller
I'm a
Williams
teen
folders, so
person now,
if you don't have your own, you can buy them, I think, from
Yeah.
the market center.
And then just make the number one, obviously you want to make sure you have your card in there and whatever information you want. I always put residential property disclosures in here too, just so I look kind of, and the point of sale stuff that they might have to deal with. I put that in there, have a pen, have a nice folder with some, good couple of pens. So you can start taking notes, just look professional. Try to get your confidence going, listen to some gangster rap on your way. I'm serious. of
I
course.
agree. Do not take a phone call from your kids, your spouse, your in-laws, anybody.
Don't listen to the news.
Anybody while you're on the way to the appointment, that's gonna mess up your thought process. You really wanna get focused and prepared before you get there.
Yeah, yeah. And then, now you're kind of think about it on where that person is on the disc and how you need to present yourself as soon as they open the door. Whether you need to be serious or bubbly and happy, just have yourself really ready and prepared to impress this seller. Make sure you have confidence. You should have confidence. You just worked your butt off on a perfect, MLS statistic and comps and you're ready. So make sure you present that to them when they're opening the door. You're not gonna wing this. You're gonna make it, you're gonna do it. You got this, fake it till you make it is part of it, of course, but you already did a lot of homework, so you don't have to fake it too much. So, did I forget anything on my little notes on that? Let's see. No.
I would say with the confidence and competence, I mean, nobody wants to come across as cocky, right? We don't want to walk in like, I'm gonna get this, but you do want to, like Jenny said, know that you've prepared, know that you stand out. Just by working with Keller Williams alone, you're already setting yourself apart from a lot of other agents in the area. And then, being a part of this great market center, you have a lot of coaching staff, you have a lot of fellow agents that are willing to help. Even agents that are not in this market center, Keller Williams is a super helpful brokerage as a whole. So do what you need to do to feel that, like, if you don't choose me and you go choose that agent from so-and-so brokerage down the road, you're making a mistake and you really mean it. Even if you're brand new, you might know more and have better skills and support available to you than some agents in some other brokerages that have been doing this a while. And hopefully you're coming with a more ethical and moral compass than some other agents might. And that can be something that also sets you apart. And when you bring that up to them, that like, I'm really doing this because I care and I want what's best for my clients. I'm not just doing this for a paycheck. That can set you apart because they can feel when agents are just there to get another sale and push them to sign the listing documents. You don't want to be that agent. And like Jenny said, with the dressing the part, I think everyone's going to feel different on this. And you have your own brand and you should have your own brand. Not everybody's going to show up in a suit with their fancy car. I certainly don't. Some people are in jeans and a nice sweater. I don't think I would come in sweaty gym clothes, but like.
It wasn't me, but I had a client, they told me that they showed up in yoga pants, like they just got a yoga.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
That can happen. I mean, I've had to come from like a soccer game for my kids and I'm in a sweatshirt and jeans, but if you present the rest of it very professional and you show them that you're an expert regardless of what you're wearing, it's not going to matter. And they might fit right in with you. They might wish that they were in jeans and a sweatshirt or whatever you're wearing, So I don't want people to feel like fake it till you make it means like you have to come across like totally dressed up and fancy. That's not going to fit with everybody. And if you're not somebody's jam, then they'll pick someone else and that wasn't meant for you. And you have to come from abundance and know that you weren't going to be the right fit for this client. All right, so you did all your prep, you show up, you drive around, you make sure that you know that house down the street because they're gonna bring that up. So if you drive the block real quick beforehand, I have found that to be super important. You want to arrive, introduce yourself, probably shake hands. Usually I let them know, I just want to say hi really quick so you don't see some weird person walking around your property. I'm gonna be out here for a minute taking some notes and then do you mind if I come back and knock on the front door again? They're like, oh yeah, go ahead. Walk around. If none of you, if you don't take notes on your phone, which is what I use for everything, then have a notebook with you or clipboard or something that you're taking notes on. But the phone notes feature is awesome for this because it can transfer right to your computer as well and saves forever and it's searchable. So I can just put in an address and find all my notes at any time. So I'm with my phone taking notes as I'm walking around the property. Some things that you want to be taking notes about are the things that you know in your head you're gonna need for the MLS. You need to know what type of siding they have. You need to know the driveway, the condition, the material. You need to know if you see any problems on the exterior. I would be taking notes of that, like the front brick steps are crumbling, they're gonna need tuck pointing, the chimney's falling apart. There's no cap on the chimney, there's no handrail on your back stairs. Why would I be paying attention to those things?
Be on like an FHA inspection.
Exactly. You want to be able to talk to your client about the fact that we're probably going to be best listing your property as a cash conventional only home. And here's the reasons why. We know that with an FHA and VA inspection, they're gonna see these items and you're gonna be responsible to fix them, or we're gonna be negotiating that. And they have to be done before closing. So unless you're comfortable letting the buyers fix them on your property while you still own it, those are gonna be things that you have to take on. Are you comfortable with that? And you're gonna ask them that. Usually they're gonna say no. But if you don't know this stuff and you list it, cash conventional, FHA, VA, all of these things, and these things come up on the back end, now your seller is not happy that you didn't tell them about any of this up front. So that whole bulletproofing the transaction, being prepared, telling your seller all of what could or could not happen based on the decisions that they make is super important, so your deals aren't falling apart. So I'm walking around, like I said, taking notes of anything that I see that inspectors or appraisers are gonna take note of, and also items that I know that I'm gonna need to put into the MLS. Then I go back to the door, go back in, ask them if there's somewhere we can set our stuff down. They usually guide you to the table, put all your stuff down and ask them, do you mind if I take a look around the house and take some notes before we sit down and talk together? Now, here's where knowing the disc is super helpful, or you're gonna get a feel and be really attentive while you're standing there. Are they coming with you? Do they want to show you around and show you this is little Timmy's bedroom and this is where we, had whatever, all of their experiences in the home? Or they say, yeah, go ahead. I'll be down here. And they just send you off and they want this quick. And so you're running around taking notes faster. Or I've had times where they're a super high D person and they do want to come with me and they're literally like, well, this is the bedroom. Turn off the light and like, I can't even take notes fast enough for this person, so you have to pivot, you're not going to be taking as many notes in that kind of a situation because you're going to make them uncomfortable if you're still in this dark room and they're on to the next room. So go around the house, take as many notes as you can, and ask questions. If they're with you, have you done any update? While you're talking, you're going to get more information from them and more of a feel like, have you done updates? Talk to me about, I see this hole in the wall. What happened here? Talk about, again, things that are going to come up with inspections, with appraisers, with buyers and their agents. Like, I want you to know that I'm looking at this also with the eyes of a buyer's agent. And they're likely going to point out to their client that, we can see that some moisture came in these basement walls. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened down here? So we're prepared for that. Don't feel bad pointing out things to them, because if you don't, everyone else will. And then they're shocked. Like, why, who cares? Why are they bringing this up? Or, why does this matter? You didn't tell me I would have to worry about this. I would have done it beforehand. I would have taken care of it. So go around the house and point out things and take notes of things. Because it's also going to come up when they go to fill out their property disclosures. And though we can't fill them out for them, you might want to be reminding them that, don't forget when we walked around, we talked about that, there was some signs of moisture in the basement. You probably want to put that in your disclosure. So have these notes and be thorough as you're walking through the house. Once you sit down together, again, you want to make sure that all the decision makers are there. How many of you have gone on an appointment and later find out that that person you just spent 2 hours with is not have anything to do with signing the listing documents? Anybody? Yeah, everyone's laughing. We've all done that. That sucks, because they're like, oh, well, my wife is making this decision, or my daughter is actually the power of attorney. She's the one handling all of this. Okay, great. So now we have to start all over again with a new person. So make sure, if you can beforehand in the prep work, that all the decision makers are going to be there. And if not, and you find out while you're sitting there that they're not, then you're going to have a conversation with them right then to go above and beyond and say, I understand, your kids aren't here and they're a big part of this decision. I'm more than happy to meet with them again, even though you're not. You're more than happy to meet with them again or do a Zoom call because they're spread across the country and there's 3 kids or siblings, whatever. Or, send them a detailed email with everything that we've gone over today. And then if they have any questions, please let them know that they can reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to go over everything we talked about. I guarantee you the person that you're sitting with is not going to be able to relay all of the information that you went over to whoever's making this decision. So you need to be that person that says, I'm happy to do this again. The first thing you want to do after that is ask them what questions do they have that they want to go over and make sure that they know before you leave today. It's really important to do that because it sets you up for later to say, okay, it looks like we've answered, we put a check next to all of your questions. Is there anything else I can answer for you to make you want to move forward working with me? Now they can't really say anything else because you just have shown them that you've gone over everything that they had questions about. And if they're comfortable with you, then there shouldn't be any reason why they're not moving forward. If they're not moving forward, they still have more questions. And then you can dig in a little bit deeper. So once you talk about and make a list of the questions that they have, you're going to go over your presentation that Jenny talked about. So that was all of anything you have in your folder. So our team, like Jenny said, we have folders for listers, sellers, and buyers. So when we talk about go over your presentation, like we're going over the pages in here and what our team offers and what we do differently than others, what the selling process looks like, things like that. And then you're going to go over your comparables and your statistics or your absorption rate and all of those other things that you've prepared. And then you're answering any questions that they have along the way. Be open to allow them, like we said at the beginning, to interrupt or ask questions. You don't want them, if they're sitting there and they have questions on their mind that you're not going over, then you've lost their attention. Because all that's going through their head is like these other questions that they haven't been able to ask or they don't feel comfortable interrupting you to ask. So make sure they know that they can stop you at any time, ask any questions, feedback, whatever. And then as you're going through your presentation, you're checking off as you've addressed the questions that they have. What would you say the most of the time people want to know when you go into a listing appointment? Price.
Like that's what
They want price, they want commission.
Commission,
What else? Anybody can think of anything else that most sellers want to know when you're in a listing appointment?
how long you've been doing this, that comes up too.
What's your experience level? Why should I choose you versus the 3 other agents I interviewed? How long do you think it's going to take to sell? What does the process look like? So if you know these things up front and you're going through each one of these and ticking off their questions, then they feel much more comfortable when you're done that like, okay, I'm ready. So then you're deciding if you want to work together. And this is a 2-way street. Guys, there's been times where I have told a client, I don't think we're the right fit for each other. Has anyone else done that? Have you?
Sure.
Yeah. And
Stop yelling at me.
yeah.
Yeah.
It may be that I could understand that maybe you need to get to a certain comfort level within your career that you feel comfortable enough to turn business away. But the sooner you can get to that place, the better you're going to be. Trust me, we are not all a good fit for everybody. And to put yourself through a miserable transaction and potentially them withdrawing and then talking bad about you to other people is not worth it. It's just not. So know that you're not going to be the best fit and know that they might want to work with you. You might not want to work with them. And sometimes when you give that bait and switch and say, I don't think we're the right fit for each other, you're going to feel that they really want to work with you. They're just coming off with this like hard personality. And then they're like, well, no, we really like what you said. And then it can turn the whole appointment around. So I think everyone has different opinions on listing paperwork being brought to the appointment with you, hard copies of actual listing documents. Personally, myself, I usually do not bring listing paperwork to an appointment. I know Jenny brings it. I know a lot of other agents that bring it, and I know agents that won't walk out the door until it is signed. I'm not that type of an agent. If you go to Bold or you have a MAPS coach, they're going to tell you that over and over, get it signed, get it signed. If they're not signing, they have more questions. They're not comfortable with somebody. That's not my personality. I like to maybe have them with me in case they're an older client that doesn't want to do digital signing. Or somebody that's like, let's go, I'm ready to list right now. So usually I'll have a blank copy that I can quickly fill in. But other than that, I do everything through Dotloop. And I explain that to them. It's super easy. I'm gonna send it right to your email. I want you to have time to go over it. Think of any questions that you have. And let me know before you sign. They also need time to fill out the property disclosure. Like if you're sitting over them while they're filling out this paperwork, it's super uncomfortable. They're rushing. They're not gonna maybe remember everything that should be on that disclosure. So I like to send it to them and give them time and let them have questions. And then make follow-up calls and stay in touch with them and help them through the paperwork if they need it. And then you're gonna go, you always want to finish your appointment, your phone calls, anything with what are the next steps? If you leave them hanging, they might call someone else. So you want to reiterate what you've gone over. This is when we plan on listing. My next steps are to get my photographer over here when you feel like you're gonna be ready for that. And that's sometimes a whole nother conversation, because maybe they have some cleaning out to do and decluttering, furniture to move. They might ask you questions about like, well, where do we put all these boxes? What do we do about the garage? And the more you know about this stuff. So personally, I would tell people, do not put all your boxes in every single room and do not cover up walls. Like people are gonna think you're hiding things. So try to have one place, maybe in the garage, maybe in a back sunroom, maybe one bedroom where you're keeping stuff labeled, and keep them about 6 inches away from the walls so that clients, inspectors, appraisers can see behind the walls, especially if they're keeping them in the basement. And the more you can prepare them with this stuff, again, the more they're gonna know that you have this experience and, okay, she's done this before. Talk to them about that you're gonna be coming to put a sign out and a lockbox. They need to have an extra key. Talk to them about showing time and how showings are gonna work, and do they wanna be notified? Do they want this as a go and show? Like, you're gonna talk through all of the next steps to get their property listed, so that when you walk out the door, they feel comfortable enough that they're not calling the next agent. Do you,
But once again,
Yeah.
you have to get the disc, like, sometimes that's too much, like, sometimes it's a 2-3 step. I mean, the next step, if they didn't sign the documents, but we're talking about how long it would take. Then the next step would be, okay, well, I have this great contractor, I have a great painter, like starting to show your value right away, that you have these people that can help them get ready to have it on the market versus the other agent who might not, yeah, I mean, I don't know if what you did is great, but sometimes you can't do that.
Yes.
You've lost them, like you just lost them, but you want to get, or they'll say, what's your contractor's name, or who can I call? I'm like, well, wouldn't you agree to sign with me? I'll be more than happy to share all those contractors with you. You don't give them free stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Somebody might bring up a pre-sale inspection. So I've had where I'm sitting at listing appointments, and maybe they interviewed another local team that requires that they have pre-sale inspections. So it's okay to give your opinion on that. And ultimately, just like what we're trying to do with pricing, is we're guiding them to make their own decision. They need to feel comfortable. You're going to tell them the pros and cons. So if somebody asks me, should I do a pre-sale inspection? I'm probably talking to them about the fact that if you're the type of person that wants to know everything that's going to come up, the type of feedback we're going to get, what might come up if the buyer's doing an inspection, and maybe you want to start taking away and fixing some of that stuff before we get on the market, absolutely, you could do that. Just know that if we do that, we have to share a copy of this report and disclose everything that was found by the inspector that you hired. And they're like, oh, really? So know the pros and cons to their decisions and be able to guide them enough that they can make their own decision. And I would also tell them, sometimes that's a good thing. If you don't think there's going to be any major things wrong, now they might not even do inspections. They might just use this inspection report and waive inspections. So it can be a good thing, but it also can open a can of worms. So, but let them make that decision. Any questions on the appointment itself, what to do while you're there? Okay, so pricing is where you can win or lose the client. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's your fault. but not all clients are gonna agree with you on what you think the property should be listed at. And this is again where you might decide that you're not the best fit for this client. But that again is ultimately gonna be up to you. So typically in our appointments, pricing and comps are the last thing we go over, so we have already shown them our value. We've built a relationship, they feel comfortable with us. They can see our experience level, and then you've got their buy-in when you go over pricing and comps. You want to, hopefully, as your ISAs or yourself have prepared for the appointment beforehand, or as you're walking through the property, you've kind of tried to get into this conversation of, do they already have a price in mind? Did they look at Zillow? Probably. Have they looked at their tax papers and what the auditor value is? Probably. Do they know what other people are selling for in their neighborhood? Sometimes they do. So understand that, like, do they already know, like, well, we can't go below X. We can't sell below 300,000 or we're gonna be losing money. You wanna know that because your conversation is gonna be a little bit different. You might be a little more delicate with how you're presenting what you think it should sell for if you guys are not in line. And if they haven't brought that up, I try to ask that question just straight out and then be quiet. Like, is there an amount that you already had in mind that you think that you wanted to list for before I even go into the comps? And I would say probably half the time they'll give you an answer. Half the time they're like, well, that's why you're here. Or, that's why we hired a professional. That's why we're interviewing. We want to see what you think you can get for it. And then I just joke back, okay, yeah, that's what we're gonna go over next. But sometimes they're gonna tell you right then, well, yeah, we looked at Zillow and we think this, or that. So know those numbers, have them written down in your notes, know what this estimate is, and know how to talk around this estimate and the fact that they've never stepped foot in your home. And we could have two neighbors next door to each other that are getting the same value, and one home could be completely updated and the other home hasn't been touched since the 70s. So how accurate do we really think this estimate is? Be able to talk about that. Same with the auditor's value. They have not come in your home. They sometimes don't update for 6 years. They're lower appraised values than what a market value is going to be if we sell it out to the open masses. You also want to know their personality and their motivation level. You're going to have some sellers that are saying, I need to get this sold. I'm moving, I'm relocating for work, whatever the case may be. We need it sold like in the first weekend. You have others that will flat out tell you, we want to price it higher and see what happens. That's a fun conversation. Be able to talk through the pros and cons, be able to talk through the fact that I always tell people, there's 3 ways people price homes. They either do this auction style where they're gonna price it super, super low and hope to God that they get into this massive bidding war and end up somewhere up here. They usually shoot themselves in the foot, and at that point, it'd be really weird to go and raise your price in the MLS if you're not getting where you want. So I don't really like that style. There's also the agents that we all know that tend to overprice the homes, even up to 30% higher than they should sell, because they want to win your listing. Unfortunately, they come in here, they tell you this high number and you get all excited and now you want to work with them. And then you're facing price reduction. And every 2 weeks they're calling you that we need to reduce the price. I don't agree with that style of pricing either. And I tell them this. I like to price the home according to the comparables where I truly think we're gonna sell. Maybe a touch higher. We could test the market a little because we are in a strong seller's market. But we are looking for 4 metrics, and I discussed this with them. We're looking for how many showings and how much activity are we getting, which we want to have at least 10 showings in the first 2 weeks, or we're not in the ballpark. We're looking for repeat showings. So is someone coming back for a second showing? We're looking at feedback. We get the same feedback over and over that we're overpriced. That's telling us something. And then 4, we're looking for offers. We want an offer within the first 2 weeks. Yes.
Would you follow the reduction strategy? I mean, the 4 metrics.
Yes. So 1 is we want 10 showings within the first 2 weeks. 2 is we're looking for repeat showings or a second showing that someone's coming back, which means they have more interest. 3 is feedback. And 4 is offers. in the market that we're in a strong seller's market, when we've just told them that there's no inventory, if we are priced correctly according to the condition of the home and the comparables that have sold, we should be under contract within a couple weeks. So that is a metric that we're telling them up front. If we're not getting these things, if we're getting one, maybe we're getting a ton of showing activity, but the feedback afterwards is every time you're overpriced or not interested or whatever their feedback is, and they're not coming back to look at it and they're not sending offers, we're not priced right. If we're getting no showings, we're not in the ballpark at all. If we're not getting any offers, we're not in the ballpark either. So those are things that we're gonna keep an eye on, and we tell them that. And then we're gonna, if you want to overprice your house a little bit, then we're gonna stay really on top of that. And in the first couple of weeks, if we're not seeing what we need to see, we need to have a discussion about price. Are you okay with that? And get their buy-in. Are you okay with that? You're shaking your head. Yeah, I understand. Let's test it. And I will say to them, I don't want you leaving money on the table. I want you to make the most amount you can as well. So I'm willing to test this, but we have to pay attention to the market. The market is speaking to us if we're not getting under contract. So prepare them for that, and that, you know, so I go over, I don't want to be too low. I don't want to be too high. We want to price it right. We want to get it sold. Even if they are those ones that say they want to test the market, you have to be able to explain to them that the longer they test the market for, the lower they're going to get. The longer they sit on the market, the more people start thinking something's wrong with this house. Why hasn't it sold? And flip it around. If you were a buyer, they're all looking on Zillow, they're looking at houses too, and they see, oh, well, that one's been on the market for 79 days. Something's got to be wrong with it. Do you want that one to be your house? And then ultimately we're letting them decide. We're going over the comps. Like we said before, you're showing them lower, you're showing them at, and you're showing them above, and help them to come to probably the price that you really thought it should be at. We're also going to talk about net sheets, which is this. Jenny and I prepare our net sheets a little bit differently, but ultimately they all have the same goal. Your net sheet needs to show them approximately what their net proceeds are going to be when all is said and done. You always need to include that broker commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable now. And I like to explain what net proceeds are to them. Not everybody knows what that term means, but you're going to show them. And I always bring 3 net sheets with me. And I tell them I have 3 net sheets prepared, because before I step foot in a house, there's no way for me to know exactly what I'm walking into. And that's that whole, they tell you it's fully updated and it's not. So I'm prepared with a couple different price ranges. And I know in my head, if it is what I think it is, this is where I'm probably going to be. If it's more updated than I thought, then it's probably up here. And if it's not what I thought, it might be down here. So I have a range of net sale prices. And then this is where I'm talking to them about commission. So now I've said to them, you know, we're likely going to sell somewhere between this 200 and 220 net sheet that I brought. And, you know, this is what we charge for commission. We talk through the buyer broker fee and what their choices are there. We could fill it in right then, or just tell them, okay, so that's going to approximately be another X dollars coming out. And then I make a joke about this whole middle section. I don't go into any detail on this. I just say, the only thing we can control on this net sheet is the commissions. Everyone gets their hand in the pot, the county, the city, the state, title company. We have no control over. Those are set fees no matter what agent you work with. I'm being fully transparent here. I don't want you to be surprised by anything. But once all of these fees come out, this is approximately what you're going to net. Now, I talked to them about the water sewer holdback and the fact that that's going to be something that buyers write on their purchase agreement, gets held with the title company, gets returned to you once you show your final bill paid, so you'll get this back. And I talked to them about property taxes and how in the state of Ohio, we pay taxes in arrears, and they need to pay the taxes for the time that they've lived in the property, and that the title company will be prorating those the day of title transfer. So obviously we don't know what day you're going to sell. Can't really put that amount in here, but I know that your annual taxes are X, and I have that written down from the auditor's site. So you're going to be somewhere between, you know, around say $3,000 or whatever, depending on what time of the year they're selling. So we're going to take that off too. And then I ask them, do you owe anything on your mortgage? So we get really clear on like, okay, with all that coming out, this is, if we sell between this and this, like we're talking about, this is what you're going to net. How do you feel about that? And then just stop talking. Let them digest it for a minute. A lot of times they're going to say, well, what if we priced it at, and they're gonna go higher, what if we priced it at 220? Okay, let's pull these comps out again that we went over. So these ones were in the 220 range that we just said we don't really fit up here. We could try, but then we're coming back to those metrics and price reductions. Or we can try to change the condition of your home to match these 220s a little better. Are there updates that you're willing to do? No. Okay, so again, have them self-realize that like what they're thinking would be great, but we can't just make up a price and get the home sold. It's gonna sell for market value. What do you do
Well, I
with
was gonna
this?
say, like, this net sheet is for somebody like, that's a high D, that really
C.
wants, C, yeah, sorry, C, they really wanna see it all.
Yeah.
So I'll have it in the back, I don't always present the net sheet, but I'll have it, like, but I'll just break it down and like, more like, okay, if the commission is 3%, I'll write it down, 3% for the list side. We don't know what the buyer's agent, I could recommend what you could do, but we can talk about that later. She dives really deep in, like, that's why I'm not interrupting her, because I'm learning, but I don't do as much as you, like, it's too much. For me, but anyway, and then I'll just maybe write on the MLS statistic sheet, there's like a bunch of room on it, so I'll kind of write on there. What 1.5% is your closing costs. I let them know that you pay your taxes in the rear, but I don't write it down because they don't like that final number once they see
That's why
that
I
the
don't either.
taxes are
I don't put that in
Yeah,
there
yeah.
either. I just talked to them about it.
Cause then I'm like, oh man, I'm not making anything.
Yeah.
And then the other agent didn't put the taxes and they're making me more, cause people don't figure out that that has to do with the taxes. So I always leave the taxes off there. I think I leave the water, I may do the water hole, but yeah, I don't always do like a big, it just depends, completely depends on the client, but I'm always prepared, like I'll have it I always have it in my folder. Just so I can pull it out, just in case they really want to know exactly what they're gonna net.
And I can say that there's been multiple times where this has set me apart. Where they say like, oh, the other agent I interviewed just told me we were gonna sell for 200,000 and I owe 6,000 in commissions. That's all he talked to me about. Well, what else did they not talk to you about? What else are they, I'm being fully
Sure.
transparent here. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't want any surprises at the closing table. Again, we're bulletproofing the transaction. We don't want them to have any reason to doubt you, not trust you, or potentially back out because now they can't afford the sale because nobody told them closing costs and all these other fees that were coming out.
Well, another way you can stand out too is Infinity Title has that really great app. I don't know if I'm sure you all use Infinity Title. But they have a really great app where it looks real fancy. You could print that out ahead of time if you wanted to, or you could do it on your phone in front of them and text it to them, just in case you're not prepared. It's really easy. Have you ever used it?
Yeah,
It's super
they
easy.
do have a net sheet like simulator.
It's really
on their
easy.
site.
Yeah, it does all the math for you.
All right. Any questions or ahas, things you learned before we potentially have time to go over comps and MLS stats? Any questions?
I forgot, I think two things, like I didn't bring up the fact that when you're going to the appointment, don't get there super early. Did we talk about that?
Well, we talked about just getting there on time, but yeah.
Get it on time, but like some of these people, like they're cleaning your house to the nine and they need every minute to get all the dust. So if you pull up like 10 minutes before, they're like, oh my God. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend maybe not more than 5 minutes prior to your appointment. And then obviously, if you do run early or if you can run early, drive around the block. I mean, just kind of get a feel and see if they have the crappy house next to them that might affect the sale of their home, just so, it helps and all
Yeah.
that stuff helps.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing I forgot. That would be demolition. Oh, well, that's it. I can't remember. But anyway, time's important.
Don't be late, obviously.
And
If you're
people-
running late, if you get stuck behind an accident or a train or whatever, you're running late, notify them ahead of time.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to send them a quick text and say, hey, I'm stuck on 90 or I'm stuck behind this train. My GPS says I'll be there in 7 minutes or whatever. It's way better to do that than to just show up late. Okay. So 3 things that you guys can do right now is memorize your listing presentation. Like we said, you don't really want to wing this. This is your career, like listings and buyers, that's all we have. So you have to be able to nail it every time. Memorize what you're going to say. And then once you have it memorized, you can start tweaking and pivoting depending on the client's disc and the personality that you're sensing while you're there. master pulling comps and being able to discuss them. So people could say like, I could pull comps, it's fine, it's easy for me. Well, can you pull comps and then compare each one to their home? You have to be able to compare it back to the subject property. And what is the difference in value between those differences? So they have a 3-bathroom and you have a 2-bathroom. Well, what does that do to value? They have a 3-car garage and you have a 1-car garage. What does that do to value? They have a finished basement and you don't. What does that do to value? Start learning those things. I did a lot of CEs with appraisers and I asked those questions. Like at the end, when they will talk to you after, or they ask if anyone has questions, start learning.
But you had like 10.
Well, it wasn't just me, because once I started, then everyone was like, oh yeah, I really should know this.
Yeah.
Because it's important to know that, because you're not, all your comps are not gonna be exactly the same. And so if you're comparing, you know, gosh, this is a really good comp, but they have a finished basement. Okay, what do I need to talk about with the client and how much value does that change where I would list it at? So start learning that kind of stuff. And then just practice. Find a practice partner if you want, a script partner, someone in your market center, a coach. Practice with your spouse, your kids, practice in the mirror, practice until you're comfortable talking about this. Okay, so
We've all been there.
We have about
I mean,
15
I was
minutes.
petrified. I still get nervous. I mean, you just gotta go in there and give it your best. I mean, we've all been there and, you know, it works though if you practice and do your
Perfect.
homework before you get there.
So we have 15 minutes. Does anyone have a preference on what you want to learn more about?
I like the stats part.
Stats? We might have time. Stats is pretty quick. So,
Do I do it on the computer?
yeah, you have to.
I don't mind. I can do it.
Here. Let's see. This is not my computer.
Oh,
No.
I got mine.
I know, I just don't know how to hook it up. What is it? On this?
You guys all have a computer?
Yeah, but you do this. Where do you log in here? Okay, here, Jenny.
I don't know my password. Are you kidding me?
You want me to?
No, I'm just messing with you. I think it's, oh man, okay. I don't
Start
care.
typing down there.
But you know, I don't do well under pressure. Hold on.
Gangster rap.
Yeah, under pressure. Here, go ahead and push yours on. Oh, it doesn't? Okay.
No.
Yes. I'm just gonna see if I can remember it myself. Yeah, I got my, okay. I think it's, yeah, hold on. It's Jenny Jack. I apologize. I wasn't ready. And I'm,
Do you want me to do that?
no, I got it. Just give me 1 second here. MLS.
If you have your computers, I would say to get on them and go into your MLS so you could do this with us.
I know, I want to move all my stuff to my notes so I can do what you do, but it's gonna be really time consuming.
Yeah.
Once I see it on
Okay.
there.
We'll talk to you soon. Yep.
Steel's back.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's okay.
Worked for me. Must have been-
Whatever,
Thanks.
like honey, you do.
Bye, Ryan.
Hopefully this is right.
Yay, you did it.
Shut up. Okay, is it working?
Yes.
All
Okay,
right,
so you're gonna go to your search tab and put in the area or the criteria that you're looking for stats in.
okay, so we're gonna do I don't know what cities, I mean, I'm a Mayfield person, but we can go, is there a particular city you guys care about? We'll do.
What?
All right, let's do
Mayfield
Mayfield
High.
City. Well, we're gonna go to Mayfield City
When?
Schools. Because Mayfield City Schools,
Island High School.
I've always been, Jose taught us to always do the school system. So I'm just gonna go, he knows what he's doing, so we'll just go with what he said. So we're trying to sell a house that's 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, right? So we'll go over to the bedrooms, we'll hit 3. And then we'll hit 2. Now, sometimes if there's not a lot, so 3 bed, 2 bath. So if there's not a lot of,
5.
let's see, I'm gonna click all of, see all of them, I'm doing active, pending, contingent, all that, right? And at this house, I'm gonna guess is between 200 and 275. I'm not sure. I'm walking into, right? So I'm gonna go up to the price and I'm gonna put in 275, between 200 and 275. So that gives us 33 matches, which is a decent amount of matches. If you kind of get one where it's only like 10 matches, then you might want to do 3-bedroom, 2+ bathroom, or 1+ bathroom. You know, you can just so you can kind of pull some more. But we've got enough that are 3-bedroom, 2 full, which most of you know, 2-bathroom could be a 1.5. So you got to kind of keep your eye on that too when you're doing your comps. So let's make sure I got all this. I got the price, we got the thing, we got the county. All right, so we're gonna hit results. Now, sometimes I'll stick to what I'm doing. So you're gonna hit all. Okay, so sit to the top, top left, there's all. This way it marks all of them. It's even gonna do page 2 for you, just because you want to make sure you get them all, right? Then you go down to print. You scroll all the way up. Second from the last is the MLS statistics. Click on that. It's gonna say print to PDF. I'm gonna click on that. Generating. So now we know that in the Mayfield City School District between 200 and 275, which it kind of tells you all at the top. See that? Kind of real small print, current price to 275, sold for the last 6 months. You can see it, the very top.
Tells you what, criteria. you
What
put
I
in the
just put
MLS.
in, but I always write it over here. There's a big spot over here. I'll write it because I don't want to have to do that when I'm trying to present a listing appointment. And it also really shows the seller, you know, in clearer form. So right now in Mayfield City School Districts, we have 2 houses that are active on the market. Now, remember how I told you it doesn't show up the pending and contingent? I don't want to lose this, but I usually count, you know, like there's 5 houses or whatever, and then I write it because it doesn't put, whatever reason, it doesn't show that on this form. So you have to physically write it yourself. And then 22 have sold. So the house that I'm looking at is 1,800 square feet with my seller. So this kind of gives me an idea of like what, see, now this one kind of gets kind of janky. See how it does 1,500 and then, you know, it doesn't do the square footage in order. But it kind of gives you a gauge that they're getting listed between 239 and 235 and they're selling around exactly that price. So that kind of shows the seller that your pricing that you just kind of told them is correct, that, you know, you could probably list it for about 235 and you could get possibly 240. Now, this sometimes, this one's kind of janky because once again, the 30 days, it's showing none sold, which I highly doubt that is true.
Yeah, first page.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not true.
no, it's not true. So it kind of, you gotta kind of watch it. I don't know why the MLS sometimes does that. It only happens once in a while. But if it doesn't look right, then you might want to tweak it and just kind of go in there and, you know, maybe do 1+ bathroom. But do you understand how to do it? Do you want me to do it twice so you can see it one more time? Okay. Real quick. This time we'll do,
1 bath or 1+.
I'm just changing it
Oh,
cities.
okay.
Well, we can do the same city if you want, but I'll do Solon City Schools. This will make this a little different. Okay, and we're gonna 4 bedrooms, 2+ bathrooms, because we got 2.5, so we'll do 2+. And we'll do between 300,000 and 400,000. So you're writing the price range, because you've kind of getting a range with them, what you think it's gonna be, or in your mind, you think it's gonna be before you go there, you're kind of reconfirming what you kind of figured it would be.
4 to 500.
4 to 5, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's true.
You got no matches.
Oh. Oh, well, active matches. Hold on a second. So you got your price range, you got your bedroom, bathroom, you got your Solon City Schools, you clicked them all, you know, active, contingent, all that. And then you hit results. Are you with me? And then go to all at the very top. See this? There's all. And that way you'll get both pages, because sometimes you'll screw up and hit, and then you won't have all. This particular wouldn't have mattered. And then you go to print. And you scroll all the way up. And you see MLS statistics. Click on that. And then print to PDF. So you got 1 active, 13 have sold. Man, you don't have any inventory.
Strong sellers market. no
Super strong.
competition.
Yeah, because if you take that number 13, we're sold, and divide it by 6. Now, why are we dividing it by 6? Because at 6 months, 180 days is 6 months. So you take that sold and divide it by 6, and that shows you how many houses sold per month. Don't make me do
2 per
math.
month, and we have 1 on the market, so we don't even have a whole month of inventory.
Yeah, so you got less than a month of inventory between 300 and 400. Was it that, or 400, 500? what'd you do?
500, yeah.
And there, people are getting 100% in their first 30 days. They're getting 100% of their asking price in 31 to 60 days. Does that make sense? Okay. The other stuff, I don't know at all. Those are the things that I focus on. And of course, the other, like I said, those are the expired listings. They never sold, or something was withdrawn, or price reduction or whatever. That's what the others are. People will want to know that. Why is that? What are the others? So, okay.
Any questions?
You ever use that?
This is the first time I've seen this.
I love it.
Bless you.
I don't do the absorption.
I do. Instead.
You're gonna teach me that. Another day.
Okay. What else? Anything else we can go over? We have like 8 minutes.
Curious how. You focus mainly on the dollars that they've been selling, or do you look more at like the dollar per square foot?
I don't ever do dollar. per
Neither
square
do I.
foot.
I don't even look at
Yeah,
it.
in fact, I forget, I think maybe Jose or somebody told me that is just not the way you do it. I have clients that say that to me, and that's what I just said to you is what I say to them. No, you price per square foot. I don't even think an
Price
appraisal
per
is
square
that.
foot is like Zillow.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't take anything into account, because I could have a 2,000 square foot home and so can my neighbor, and I have every room updated and they haven't touched it since the 70s. So what does square foot matter? It's condition. It's
Very-
updates and
yeah.
condition, and like she said, appraisers, there is square footage on an appraiser's report and they do make adjustments for it. But there's so many other things that are gonna take precedence, and the same if you're talking about the eyes of a buyer or a buyer's agent who's walking in there and saying, yeah, sure, this is the same square footage, but you have to sink 60 grand in here to even come close to what that other house looked like.
And then I don't know if you've noticed this, but the MLS keeps showing the basement square footage as square footage
Mhm.
as you're above ground,
Recently, it
yeah.
changed. I think
really
it's a
messing
mistake.
things up.
Yeah, I think it's a
Yeah,
mistake.
so, yeah, I don't pay attention to it at all. Once in a great while, if I really don't know, it's just like there's nothing selling in that area, maybe, but honestly, I don't know.
I think builders use that more, builders, because they're all like.
Yeah, they're all the
Square-
same.
that
It's
makes
just
sense.
a matter of
So
square
this
footage.
house versus this house, that's
Mhm.
price per square foot, that's price per square foot.
Mhm.
I know DR Horton did that back in Florida.
I mean, every once in a while, I'll come across like a certain house is exponentially larger than what else has been selling in,
Sure.
in the comp, so I was just curious.
I mean, I would tweak, I wouldn't say it's not, but mostly never, but once in like a great while.
And I think that's where this conversation comes in with, like, the seller might say that. They're looking at these comps and they're like, well, my house is 500 square feet bigger than this. Well, first of all, I already have that in my notes because I wrote on every comp that their square footage is larger. But also, yes, you are 500 square feet larger, but they have an extra full bath, or they have a finished basement, or they have that 3rd-car garage, or they have a great sunroom off the back that is a 3-season room that's not counting in square footage, but it's super attractive to buyers in this area. Or
Did you say acreage?
or acreage, or, I mean, there's so many other factors that they can't only focus on square footage. So I would be bringing up all of those other factors too, and how they can figure in value the square footage. Mhm. What else? Anything else? I think comps is like a whole nother class. Like, there's no way we can go over how to pull comps in 5 minutes. So, if that's something that you want to do, certainly let the market center know. I mean, we're happy to come back and do something else with Danielle or, okay, Jenny's not, I am. You did, did Jenny do a good job, everybody? Thank you. She's so nervous. Yeah.
I wore a turtleneck because I get hot. so
Oh
I
my
have
God,
hot-
you're such a.
What?
Crazy.
I should. Okay, good.
Good.
All right, thanks.
All right, so yeah, we'll try and do another class, even if it's a Zoom class on pulling comps, we could do something like that. Okay. Cool. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. Happy house.